Hey everybody, whip it! Whip it good! We're talking about Castlevania on our October Spooktacular here at PIxelblips. Dave, what's your first memory of Castlevania?
Well, the first Castlevania game I remember liking was probably the same one that a lot of people remember liking.
That's why I said, what's your first memory? Because I know that we're going to talk about that Castlevania a
yes,
lot.
I actually never really played a Castlevania game before that one.
Castlevania 1 was the first game that I ever beat. And I remember it because I was at home with a babysitter who basically was, whatever, didn't care.
Yeah.
And she let us put our Nintendo...
In the living room.
No, our Nintendo in the bedroom.
Oh.
With the TV where we had the old, like an old RCA that you had to like grab pliers and turn on.
Oh yeah. It's all broken. You had to like pull the thing out and volume up, volume down. Yeah.
They had the two bolts instead of the coax screw. Anyway, so she let me take the Nintendo in there, and then my brother stayed up with the babysitter and her friends all night, and then I stayed up all night too, drinking Coca-Cola, and played through the entirety of Castlevania in a night. And I remember very distinctly, like, at the end of it, you beat the final version of Dracula, which is that big monster version. Kind of looks like a gargoyle with a fat tummy. And looking over and seeing, like, the early morning mist in the park across the street as the sun started coming up, and realizing that I had stayed up all night playing Castlevania.
Well, that's cool.
In my PJs. So that's my first Castlevania memory.
I mean, I remember playing the early Castlevanias in like a Play 10.
Yeah.
When my family would go to these like big game auctions, we would always run around and be like, "Oh, look, Castlevania," and we'd sit there and try to play it, but it wasn't the one that we liked.
Yeah.
Because the first Castlevania that I played is Symphony of the Night, right?
Yep.
The one where you don't actually play a Belmont.
A Belmont.
I mean, you do for like the first 10 minutes, and then you don't play a Belmont again.
Spoiler.
Oh God. If you beat the game right, you can, or if you put the name in as Richter, you can play as Richter through the entire thing, and that's a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
But it is the epitome of the 2D exploration game, right? You run around.
Well, it became that. See, so before we get there, let me talk. So I liked Castlevania 1. I didn't like Castlevania 2 because I was too young to understand it and everything.
Yeah.
Castlevania 3 I really liked. I was a really big fan of Castlevania 3 and being able to change into the different guys. I remember I had Castlevania Adventure on my Game Boy, and then I had Castlevania Legends on my Game Boy. I had a friend who had a Super Nintendo, and we played Super Castlevania 4, which is just a retelling of Simon Belmont's story. Excuse me. And I don't believe I beat that one. Yeah, I don't remember beating that one. And then we also had another friend that was very rich and had a PC Engine from Japan. And he had Rondo of Blood.
Oh, yeah. What became Bloodlines or whatever?
Yeah, eventually became Castlevania not Bloodlines. Bloodlines was on the Sega Genesis, and I have that one. Bloodlines is really good. Bloodlines is funny because it's like they took the Castlevania continuity and the Bram Stoker's Dracula continuity and tried to like merge
Put them together.
The two going forward, which was really interesting. But Rondo of Blood came over as Dracula X. There was Dracula X on the Super Nintendo, and then Dracula X, the Rondo of Blood, on the PC Engine, which is now Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles on the PSP. And that was the first game that I remember like being amazed at because it had like anime style cutscenes, and there's that scene in the beginning where it's raining and you're on the chariot and death is stalking you, and so I was like, man, this is amazing. But then I didn't really play a Castlevania game, except for the Game Boy ones that I've always played, until you brought up Symphony of the Night. And you were the first person to introduce me to Symphony of the Night, which is a direct sequel to Rondo of Blood.
It is. And you're running around as Alucard. He can turn into the Mist and the Bat and the Wolf. He can do basically everything Dracula can do.
Dracula's curse, he can only turn into a bat.
Well, okay, but there's like other versions.
No, I mean like in Castlevania 3, Dracula's curse, he can only turn into a bat.
Yes. Okay. But it's still it's knowledge.
Anyway,
thanks, Bill Nye.
Yay.
And just in that game specifically, because it was one of the games that me and my brother played through multiple times.
Yeah.
And we always tried to get
I still play through it.
We always tried to get the mythical 208% or whatever it is you can get when you find all the secret rooms in both versions of the castle, and the music in that game is just fantastic.
Yeah.
As you go through, I mean, it was one of those.
But the music in Castlevania, like
in general is pretty
overall
good.
is fantastic. Like Vampire Killer, their theme. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, oh yeah, woo, we're gonna whip some stuff. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Need that chainmail flaming whip.
It was, and it brought together Castlevania, like the jumping and whatever, with like an RPG element.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Which I really liked,
you
'cause I
would
like
level
going-
up a la carte, you would get new gear, some of
Yeah.
that, and you could get a whole set, and then you would start getting bonuses and stuff
Not
like
the
that.
last time I played Symphony of the Night, but the time before, I was on vacation in Mexico, and I remember I was just like, I'm just gonna spend as much time in the normal castle before I go
To
fight
Upside Down Castle.
fight Richter and go to Upside Down Castle, just leveling him up, leveling up Simon.
Alucard?
Alucard, which is Dracula spelled
Backwards.
And I remember just beefing him up all the way, and then finally getting the spike armor and going through and getting the special
the goggles at the very, in that one tower way up on
like
its
all the
own.
way off on the never eat west side of the thing, and then like the little ball that you're supposed to hit, like just popping it in one hit.
Oh, yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I was so leveled up
Because
like,
you were at like, what's level cap for him is 100 or
Yeah.
99, so.
I got to level. I was well at 99 way before I met Dracula. And
So then the
Upside
rest of
Down
the
Castle.
game was just a cakewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the other thing I always hate is that. So the last time I played it, the time I was in Mexico, not the time after the time I was in Mexico, I found something I'd never found before.
What?
You know how there's that talisman that lets you breathe underwater so water doesn't hurt you?
Oh yeah, you told me about that. I'm like, you missed out on so
Yeah.
much not having that.
Never found that before. Always beat the game without it.
And there's a lot of stuff down there. Like it's not even just you can breathe underwater. It's water won't hurt you.
Yeah, I know. So what I would normally do is just get Alucard so beefed up and then go and
then go down there
runs
and
through the water to get what I needed and go back out.
Yeah, no, you missed out.
I know.
Like,
it was. Because
once you have that, you don't have to worry about dying in the water. Because every 2 or 3 hits, it'll bounce you back. That 5 feet or whatever it is. And yeah, that's a pain in the ass. I don't know. That takes a hell of a lot of patience to do that.
Yeah, it's a good game. I had the patience to give.
I guess, but.
So if I were to
playing it wrong.
So after Symphony of the Night, Castlevania totally changed. From this kind of level-based progression of Rondo of Blood and Bloodlines and Castlevania 4 through 1, all the way to this kind of here's the giant map of the castle. Let's figure out how to get around inside of it.
Yeah.
So you had Circle of the Moon, which was the one for the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Right after it, that had the exact same map, and then
did it? I remember playing some.
Harmony
of
of Dissonance also had the exact same map of Dracula's Castle, I think. Harmony of Dissonance is where you played the guy with the long hair. Circle of the Moon is where you played the guy with the short hair, I believe.
I remember playing that, but I don't remember the map being the same. But I could be wrong.
And then
I
what was the
didn't play it for
one
very
where
long.
you were in modern day Japan on the?
No clue.
Yeah, it's
The more recent Dracula games, what the hell are they? The ones on the PS3 and the 360.
Yeah.
They're like 3D. Lords of Shadow.
Lords of Shadow. Yeah.
Those are what I've played of.
I've liked them.
What I've played of them, I've liked them.
Yeah. So there's also Castlevania, Lament of Innocence, and one more where you.
There's another one. There's a ton of
Yeah, they're both on the PS2. They're both 3D, and they both play just like God of War.
Oh yeah, I remember
Like
that.
Lament of Innocence is kind of
that's how.
Lament of Innocence is more like Devil May Cry. But by the time God of War came out and whatever's after Lament of Innocence, I can't remember the name at the moment. Plays almost just like God of War, and then the Lords of Shadow plays
exactly
just like God of War.
it is because I think it when
And
I
there's
played
a new Lords of Shadow coming out.
Yeah. I think when I played the first Lords of Shadow, I downloaded the demo or whatever, and I'm like, this plays exactly like God of War and Dante's Inferno and all these other crazy action, crazy platformer games, and it was fun and silly, but it had that Dracula Castlevania theme to it, and it was a really, like I said, I only played the demo, but it had some really good, decent voice acting in the first part of it.
Oh no, it does, and actual
Patrick Stewart plays
Patrick
somebody,
Stewart,
right?
Robert Carlyle, I think.
Yeah.
So it's very odd to see how they keep changing the continuity and everything.
It's okay.
From
it's
where
Dracula.
it used to be, before Trevor Belmont, there's the Templar Belmont, which was in Lament of Innocence, and then Trevor Belmont. Supposedly Trevor Belmont was Sophia's Belmont's son, but they wrote her out of continuity. And then Simon Belmont is Trevor Belmont's grandson, and then Richter is Simon's grandson, and then the guy in Bloodlines that has the lance is part of the Belmont clan.
It's just weird. Like, I mean, they keep changing up the story, but that's okay. It's their story to change whatever they want to do with it. But as long as the games are still fun and it still has that exploration-y feel to it, I'm
actually
in.
like looking back on it, thinking it like I really liked the straight levels.
Right, it was
Like,
just here's level 1,
yeah.
go. Here's level 2,
and it's like this
go.
is really hard, and you're gonna have to figure out how to get around it instead of just beefing your character up and finding like the way to double jump and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But since Symphony of the Night, Castlevania has kind of strayed from its original path, and I think Lords of Shadow is them trying to find a new path now that the Symphony of the Night stuff has kind of ran its course with Portrait of Ruin and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I still like Symphony of the Night. It's still one.
Symphony of the Night's like one of the best.
It
games
is
ever
one of the
made.
few. Well, it was one of the first PS1 games I bought on my Vita or my PSP.
Yeah.
And I still have it. I think I have it installed on my Vita actually.
Yeah, it is one of the best games ever made.
Yeah, it is. And just between the music and the layout and the leveling up purposes and the fact that there are things that you will never see in that game unless you just sit and grind and grind and grind and grind. Like the Medusa Shield. I've never seen the Medusa Shield.
Like I would say if you were to make a list of the top 10 games ever made, Symphony of the Night would be on it.
Well,
if you were to make a list of the top 20 games ever made, Symphony of the Night and Castlevania Rondo of Blood or Dracula's Curse would be on it.
Yeah,
probably. If you were to, like, it's kind of like if you were to make a list of 100 best games,
there would be at least 5
you would see Castlevania 1, Castlevania 3, Castlevania 4, Bloodlines, Rondo of Blood, Symphony of the Night.
You'd see it a handful of times on the top 100 games list.
It's one of those series that does deliver, but there's also been like Castlevania 64 and Castlevania Legacy was the one after 64.
There have been some bad.
Both of the ones for 64 you totally don't need to deal with.
No, there have been some bad Castlevania games, but I mean, when you have that many games in a series, there's bound to be some bad ones. I mean, look at games like Mega Man and things like that. There are bad Mega Man games.
Yes, there are.
So, yeah, but
But Castlevania is like one of those series that is just so great,
consistently good and more consistent. Even consistently
like
great and almost always good.
The bad ones are just kind of mediocre.
Yeah, they are your 7s and 6s on a scale of 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Castlevania is just one of those series that been around forever, going to be around for a long, long time. As long as they keep pumping them out, they'll probably keep selling.
And I'm really excited that Lords of Shadow 2 supposedly has Alucard in it.
Well, good. I mean, we want to bring the character back. Do you think they'll get the original voice actor from Symphony? I don't know how old that guy is, but that'd be awesome.
They didn't get the original voice actor for Dracula.
Well, yeah, but Dracula can change every time he gets a new
Do you know the story of Lords of Shadow?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it once we're off the air. So we will be back in a bit with a couple days on Halloween. We'll be back on Halloween with trick-or-treating and the brighter side of Halloween.
That's it.